What do you get when your HR leader knows more about AI than your IT department? And how does somebody make human capital sound less like a dystopian sci-fi concept and more like the future of work you actually want to be part of? Today we sit down with Amy Cappellanti-Wolf, a Chief People Officer, a CHRO, which is Chief Human Resource Officer for a major international company, who doesn't just talk about culture, she builds it and then runs it like a Fortune 500 rebel with a cause. She's a customer zero for her own technology, believes titles are overrated, and still finds time to question everything, including the very system she's helping to reinvent. From AI enhanced HR to the absurdity of managing culture via Zoom squares, Amy's insights are as sharp as they are hilarious. Stick around to the end because Amy drops a truth bomb about leadership that might just make you cancel your next meeting for good. Join us as we breach HR via servant leadership, just like as if you were a hacker. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and now the show. Watch Be the Type of Person That Fights Back. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and now the show. Well, welcome everybody. I am your host, David Mauro. We are joined by Amy Cappellanti-Wolf, an accomplished global chief human resources officer with experience leading startups to Fortune 500 companies, having held leadership roles at little-known places like Cisco, Sun Microsystems, Dayforce, Symantec, and the happiest place on earth, the Walt Disney Company. Currently serving as an executive vice president and chief people officer at Dayforce, which is a cloud-based human capital management platform offering a suite of tools for managing the entire employee lifecycle. Amy, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, we're excited to learn from you and to hear about the world of human capital management and the employee lifecycle. But tell us about your current role, what your mission is, and a little bit about Dayforce as well.
Sure. Well, it's interesting because I've had the pleasure of working in lots of different industries, whether it's technology, entertainment, consumer. But this one in particular, this role really attracted me for a couple of reasons. First of all, I get to do what I love best, which is, HR strategy aligned to the business, helping companies really get the best out of their employees. But I also get to be customer zero, meaning our company sells product and a platform by which peers like myself and I work with would be using the platform. So not only get to be the head of HR to help direct the strategy of the business from an HR perspective, but also get to use the product, influence the product, both as it currently exists today, but also future roadmaps, because I'll be an end user at some point, but also get to be in front of customers and talk about what I'm learning as a result of being a customer, but also what's happening in the market with trends. And so I learn a lot in my job every day. So I could not ask for a better combination at this point in my career where I get to not only lead HR, but also I've never had a chance to influence roadmap. Nobody at Cisco ever said, Amy, tell us what you think about our networking strategy or our, routing strategy. But here I get to talk about the talent development platform or the compensation platform or the data metrics platform. So it's been very fulfilling and it's really exciting work.
Yeah, you led an initiative, as I read, about rather than the phrase eating your own dog food, you were like, let's drink our own champagne, which I thought was very classy approach
Thank
to
you.
it. But did you you like that? I think
I like the Div Clicquot, be honest.
Yeah, it was very
good.
good.
Talk about champagne. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's very impactful, right? Because nothing is better than using the services that you're trying or your sales and marketing team are trying to push out there, right? And in their go-to-market strategy. I mean, being able to really have demonstrable case studies and examples and anecdotal stories and being able to understand not even complaints, but challenges or features and benefits that your users are leveraging. I think that's absolutely wonderful.
And it's been very fulfilling too because I'm authentic. Like I'm not going to tell them something works or doesn't work unless I've
Right.
used it, right?
Yep. Absolutely. So, tell us a little bit about like your road to getting here. Uh, what are throughout your experiences, and you've worked at some phenomenal brands. What have you found, like any common threads to really strong leadership? I would imagine things like authenticity, empathy, right? Getting feedback, gauging it, not micromanaging. What have you found?
Well, first of all, I've found, and then all those things absolutely are essential. Being empathetic, approachable,
Right.
real. But I've also found, like, I learned. So I grew up in Morgantown, West Virginia, great college town
Yep.
near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I'm a Steelers fan, married to an Eagles fan, which is problematic at times.
That is
But
problematic.
it is. But I grew up with a really strong work ethic. Like my dad owned his own restaurant. We all worked in it, and it was like work hard, and put your best foot forward, and things will come your way. And
Hmm.
so I was always the one that would raise my hand for sometimes the hard work, the project nobody wanted, the fact that maybe it was failing. And so my view was always like, well, there's no place to go but up. I'm going to learn a lot. And
Right.
very often you learn more when things are broken versus when they're working really well. And that's where I probably perform best. So I think the thread I've learned through my career is like, not everything's going to be pretty and pristine. And probably your best breakthroughs and innovation are dealing with things that are complex, hairy, look potentially bigger than what you can consume. But in leadership, your role is to break it down into bite-sizable chunks, to simplify it so people understand the root cause of what you're trying to solve, and then put practical, pragmatic actions in place that allow yourself to see a plan of action that will deliver a result. And I think sometimes leadership is like, I'm going to go out and lead, but part of times leading is leading in the ranks, in it with them to understand what they're experiencing and what is not working so that you have a better sense from their dimension of what needs to get fixed. And I learned that through my entire career, whether it was at Frito-Lay, working on the shop floors initially as an HR associate, to working with the Disney Cruise Line in Italy, helping member the team that's going to build the ship and design it, not necessarily operate the ship, to working at Cisco with technologists, is that you got to get into sometimes the details and take the time to solve the problem before you go after the problem. So old Einstein saying, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend the first 55 minutes getting clear about what the problem is and then the last 5 minutes solving it. And so I think that's a clear thread around leadership for me, is people who want to solve problems, simplify things, break them down to bite-sizable chunks, and bring people with them in how they're going to address the resolution.
Absolutely. There's great sophistication in simplifying, isn't there? Like I think anybody when they're first learning something that's complex or they're heading into a storm and it's messy, right? They're just going to list all the details and they're just going to, elaborate and being verbose while they kind of process it. But that's really not where the solution is. And that's not where leadership needs to go to. You need to, like you said, boil it down to concise, clear, bite-sized pieces that are actionable that people can
Right.
actually go to.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Let me ask you, when you were in one other thing that I've heard is a common theme with really strong leaders. We interview a lot of leaders here, and one thing I've heard that seems to be a common theme is they go toward boom, they go toward the crash. Like everybody's kind of running away from it. There's various departments in the organization and these are doing great and everybody wants to work with those, right?
Right.
And the leaders wind up going toward the ones that are on fire. It's like you're drawn to it and you're like, and in some senses, you said it well, and that is, look, you can't do any worse than it's doing right
Right.
now. Like, somebody's got to help. Like, even if you just throw yourself at it, like, something's going to get better, right?
Right.
And
Right.
it's so true. And they really need that because It's not glamorous. It's a lot of work, but then you're able to identify certain issues. Like there's more things that you'll learn and be able to help and make a bigger impact, in my opinion, by
Yeah, and I
fixing
also
things that are broken. Like that's
ex-
really key.
exactly, and I think not only fixing it but making it sustainable. Because sometimes this is a weird dynamic here, but sometimes in my career I've seen people who are heroes, and a lot of times they're the ones setting the fires, you know, to put them out. And so part of what I want to do is when I go in to solve a problem with a group of people or what have you, I make certain that whatever we solve, it has life to it. It's got sustainableness to it versus we put lipstick on the pig, we're moving on. And sometimes you got to do that based off of what you're dealing with. But largely you want to try and create solutions that have, they're timeless, that will last for a while. And of course it'll evolve over time, but just putting band-aids on things, you're very often going to go back and have to put another band-aid on it unless you get to the real challenge of fixing it.
That's great. I now I'm fascinated by hearing a story of somebody that set the fire in order to fix it. Is there anything you can share? Because that would be a really good story. So when I was at Frito-Lay, this guy turned all the chips purple, and then he went in and he saved the day, but he's the one who turned them purple. So anything like that? Do you have any stories that you can share like that?
Oh my
Or
gosh.
you don't have to name names or companies, but I am
Yeah.
interested in that because, like, who needs that? Like, we don't need people setting fires. Like,
No,
just let the organization be. The fires will erupt. Like, it's just people, right? The
exactly,
fires are going to
exactly.
happen. So,
Yeah, God, there's, I have several and I've thought about, and they're not badly intentioned people,
right.
but they're people who, um, may go and do something like, for instance, I'm going to go and I'm going to tinker on, looking at your data, and I'm going to manipulate in a way where it's going to give me what I need, that I'm not going to go and actually put it back and revert it to what it is. And then there's going to be a big blow up about the data being less than pristine. And then the data analyst that goes in and says, oh, here, it needs to be reconfigured. I can fix that, whereby they caused the problem in the
They
first
cause the
place.
problem. Oh,
And,
yeah.
and sometimes it's not bad intention. Sometimes it's like, I want attention. Like, I want to make certain people
Right.
know how important I
They want
am.
to
And
feel
sometimes
special, right? They want to save
yeah,
the day. People want to be relevant,
they want to be that
right?
relevant. And sometimes that even happens when you're in a company that's growing quickly and the
Oh,
people
sure.
that got you there won't maybe get you to the next level. And so they're trying to find ways of relevancy because they are the ones who know that secret sauce in that
Hmm.
particular, technology that sometimes they may hold you hostage a bit because they know it. And that's when you say, okay, well, first of all, it's not a team player. But two, we have to unlock what you do know because we need to fix that thing so it doesn't continue to be a problem because one person can only fix it. You need to have teams of people that have resiliency and redundancy in how things get fixed. And sometimes that hero is the one that holds the knowledge and they can sometimes hold it hostage without even knowing they're doing it.
Absolutely. When you were, and you mentioned that you were working in a family restaurant, and that's tough work. I've worked with many people that have come from that industry, and that's a lot of work. Like people really underestimate it; they don't get it. Like people just, I'm going to retire and get a restaurant. I'm like, that is not retiring,
No.
man. Like that is 120-hour weeks if you're going to do it right. Like it's a lot. What lessons did you learn coming up through that as you were growing up?
It's probably a lesson that's a little melancholy for me, but first of all, I learned working hard, right? So my dad was
Hmm.
always like, he'd get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, he'd go in, he'd open up the restaurant, have his regulars come in for brekkie, come back home around 10:30 for a break, go back in around 11:30 for the lunch
Did
rush.
they call it brekkie in West
No, they did
Virginia
not.
or
That's
in
my own
like?
national experience.
Yeah, that's
In West
that's your
Virginia, it was
California speak
yeah, it's my
for
yeah. I'm too
breakfast.
too
Yes,
vibing here. It was
yes.
largely like ham and eggs on the grill.
Hmm.
Um, good catch. And
Thanks. I
then
just wanted to clarify it for my
thank you.
Midwestern audience.
So they're like, what is this woman? She's from West Virginia, lives in California. Was she in Australia? I don't know. Um,
It's great.
so he'd get home like at 3, and we'd have dinner at three
Hmm.
thirty, which is like
Right.
super weird, right? And
Yeah,
then he'd go
especially as
back.
a kid, right?
Yeah,
It's
'cause all my
like
friends are like eating at 6, and I'm like, well, I'm
right,
done eating. Want to go play? And
right.
then he would go back to work until like 7 at night, eight,
Yeah.
nine. I saw him working really hard. We had no vacations except for long weekends to Ocean City, Maryland, because he
Hmm.
had that place Monday through Saturday. And he had staff that worked for him, but he was largely the principal of it all. So I learned a lot about hard work, customer service, inventory, how to think about like introducing new things. One time he was known for like provolone sandwiches and Canadian bacon, steak sandwiches all on the grill with homemade French fries. And I learned one time he tried something new, like a pizza oven. Some came by and tried to get him to use, and realized no, that does not align to the core of what we do. So it was a
Right.
great like
So
early days
staying
of
true
like
to brand and staying on
right,
brand, that's really important.
exactly.
A
It was
lot of
very
places
important.
try to do everything and then they minimize, and you've seen that in other organizations. You've seen that in other, especially in the food industry, right?
Oh
Certain
yeah,
restaurants try to do a little bit of everything and they get away from their core thing that made them famous. It's like,
right.
just
Bring it
stick with
back.
the bakers. Yeah, just stick with that.
Exactly.
Just push your message out farther if you want to grow, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly what, he did so well. But I recall, so my grandparents who came from Italy started the restaurant with my grandfather with his brothers. And then my
Hmm.
grandfather took it over. And it was actually an Italian restaurant first. And then it became more of a fast food kind of joint, so to
Hmm.
speak. Old Milwaukee on tap, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And my dad really wanted to be, I think, a teacher because he was fascinated by history. He was very studied in it, read Wall Street Journal end to end, always knew what was happening in the world. But I think because he was the only son, he had an older sister, he was the one they said, you're going to take the business over. And
Yes.
so I look back to those days, and I don't know if my dad loved that business. I think his heart was someplace else. But in those days, you were dutiful. Not that you're not today, but there's a different kind of relationship with
Right.
your parents about expectations. And so I remember him one time telling me that sometimes before he goes to work, his stomach gets upset thinking about having to go into work. And I would never
Yeah.
have known that about him for the many years I knew him, but he shared that with me years later. And so what that instilled in me
That's
is I
usually
don't
a
want to.
sign, isn't it? That is usually a sign. Those Sunday night dreads. My
Yes.
dad, who was Italian, had a very similar experience, and when he was getting to that point, he was like, "I gotta sell. I gotta sell." Like
Yeah,
it's getting to the point where I can't. I dread Sunday nights because I know all Sunday night I'm going to dread Monday, and it just comes
you
to that point. You're like, that's
get
when you
tired.
know it's just not for you. It doesn't mean it's bad necessarily. It
No,
just
no.
means it's just not for you. It's not what you're designed to do.
It's not what your passions are, right? So
Yeah.
exact same thing. He stuck with it, however, because he was
Hmm.
he was August Caesar Capellani. He could not. But I look back at that and go, I don't, when I go to whatever I'm going to go do as an adult, I want to love what I do and I want to have passion
Hmm.
and I have that now. I've had that in my career, but it was a learning for me about, sometimes you're responsible and accountable to do something you don't always want to have to do, but potentially might be the right thing. But boy, does it make a difference when you also love what you do, and it really makes
Absolutely.
maybe that accountability feel less of an obligation and more of a true passion about what you're doing. So instilled in me and like love what I do, and if I don't like it, do something else.
Do you evaluate team members that way? I know it's not, maybe I'm black and white, but are you looking for team members? Because so much when somebody leads, they want to keep a positive culture. They want people to not just work for the paycheck, but to give blood, sweat, and tears for the organization because they want it to be a passion. So to do that, it's hard because you still have to get stuff done. Like there's still deadlines, stuff has to get done, but you want to stay positive. And so people really struggle in leadership to do that because sometimes they just have to put the hammer down. Sometimes they micromanage. They don't know what to do in
Right,
managing humans, right? You can read all the books, you can take all the classes, you can get all the degrees. No one's going to teach you that. Like you have to
right.
really figure out humans and what inspires each individual one. Do you find like it helps you when you might be in an interview, there might be two equal candidates, but one of them just loves it? Like they just, you can tell they're like on the weekends, they're looking at stuff, they're reading books on it, they're like posting on LinkedIn about it. Like they are like geeks about
Yep, yep.
that. And those are the ones you want because they're going to live and breathe it,
Right,
right?
right.
Is
Yeah,
that,
I'm naturally. Yes,
do
I'm
you,
naturally attracted to people who are like curious, right? Like, because
yeah,
the day I stop learning is the day I probably aren't I'm not going to be on this earth any longer because I'm
right.
just really encouraged about learning new things, and it just makes me just like hunger to learn more. And so whenever I'm looking at folks, I look at will and skill. Okay, so
Hmm.
if I got someone who like has the will, really wants to do it, but has some gaps in the skill set, but shows me like learning. agility and the ability and curiosity.
That can
I
be
will take that.
trained then. Yeah, because that can be
Exactly. And
trained
that can
100%.
be trained. I'll take that over anyone who's got a lot of skill but no will, because it's hard
Right.
to teach will. And if you're not,
Yep.
you're not into it, or you don't want to do the work, but you've got the capacity, I'll much more take the person who has the potential than the person who has actually the skills but doesn't have the desire to kind of work hard or put themselves out there and lean into the work. And I've always looked at things that way. And that's kind of how I look at myself. Like, when you have the will, and you're gonna find a way to learn it. And if you're in the right conditions of environment, which is what I try to do, is create the conditions where, one, people are psychologically safe. Two, I have a high bar, and I let them know directly and early about how they're performing along the way, so they can build on that. I create those conditions for people, and I think that's exactly one of the most important leadership attributes, is creating those conditions where people can fail fast, where they can learn, where they can also take feedback and give feedback. Like, if you can't give it and take it, then you shouldn't belong in what we do every day, because that's how life is, right?
Right.
um, that's where I feel like I get a lot of the right people on my team, because of how I operate. And also, I don't know everything. Like, I do hire people smarter than me.
Right. It's always a good practice.
It is.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of people
Yeah.
like don't do that, and I'm like, well, shame on you. 'Cause you have to. That means you have to solve everything all the time. You're going to be exhausted.
Right.
And then I look at people when I'm in a meeting that, like, there's maybe everybody's in consensus, and there's one person's like, I don't know, and sometimes their voice isn't heard because they're not chirping about them agreeing. And so I'll ask that person, tell me why, what you see that we don't see, because very often they're seeing something that none of us are seeing that might actually be very helpful for us in making the decision. And so I think it's another thing leaders have to do, is pay attention to the dynamics in the room, because there may be people over talking other people. You may be so present in what you want to go do, you're not focused on what's happening around you. And so that's another way by how I, think about the will and the skill. I think about the intellectual curiosity. I think about the conditions I have to create, but also making certain I've got the right people on the team that are going to also push me, because that's where I'll be a better leader for them.
This is Cybercrime Junkies. And now the show. Yeah, absolutely. So I read something that I wanted to ask you about, and it really gets to the topic of like scaling trust with tech. At Dayforce, you guys have like a remote first global workforce, right?
Yep.
And you guys, I guess my question is, what's the toughest kind of cultural tightrope you've walked when scaling Dayforce, across time zones and with all the different cultures? Like, how have you kept trust and connection intact?
No, it's a great question. And what attracted me to Dayforce was the fact, wow, like remote first, because
Mm-hmm.
that means you're using your technology. Like, you're not just like saying it, but and then you're going to change your mind and bring everybody back into the office. You really believe that technology can enable you to do this work. I think the hardest thing is keeping people connected with the fact that some are hybrid, some come
Right.
into the office where they live near offices, and then they may work from home. There are others who are fully remote and probably will never come into an office because of where they're located. And then you got people that sit within potentially a region, let's say Atlanta, where we used to have an office, that don't go into an office. But is there ways we could connect with them differently through some sort of like
Mm-hmm.
WeWork situation where they come in once or twice, a month, to come together and collaborate, so to speak. So I think the hardest things about that democratization, because like when everybody during the pandemic, God bless, never want to go back to that again, but everybody was on Zoom or on Teams, whatever
Right.
platform you are. So there was no, like, I'm in the office, I get to see the boss face to face. So when I'm in meetings, I don't include you in the discussion because you're on Zoom. It gave everybody an equal playing field. And now we're back to more of that, the hybrid piece. So how do you make certain people are part of the discussion and they aren't forgotten because they're not there presently in proximity? Or they're so remote that the hours they work make it challenging to connect. I think that's the hardest thing, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I think that's the big challenge of all of this unique way by how ways of working is changing. And then you and I were talking earlier about AI. Let's add a little bit of AI into it, and then it gets really interesting about other technology that may disrupt how people do their work. But I'd say engagement's been, I think, the most challenging thing, to make certain everybody feels like they've got a place at Dayforce.
Yeah. And you've been leading like AI as like a strategic enabler, haven't you? Like not
Yes.
just for productivity, but also employee empowerment. Like what bets are you placing on it? How are you kind of driving that?
Well, it's so first of all, I think everyone's still learning about AI, and I've talked to
Hmm.
several people in my roundtables when I have with leaders. I'm like, if you're not on board, the train's left the station, and you
Right.
can catch up, right? I mean, we're all in a learning journey here, but
We haven't
I
gotten
think
that
about
far yet. You know what I mean? Like there's still time to catch up because
there's still
we're
time,
still
yeah.
scratching the surface of it.
And not to be cynical, but there's a lot of like whitewashing going on with AI. Like they put AI in their title in a company and on a website, and suddenly they're AI.
I know everything
They're
that's electric is AI
AI.
powered
Yeah,
now. It's like because people
exactly.
don't understand what goes on behind the blinking lights, so they're like it's AI. It's
It's AI. Yeah, it's
ridiculous.
AI. So I
Yeah.
don't know about this stuff, right?
Right.
And so we're trying to break it down to its basic components, right? So
Hmm.
there's different personas and how you about think about AI. Like a developer may use AI to really help them sort of code faster, get
Right.
to product bugs sooner, help build a product more effectively.
Vibe
For
code, things like that. Right. Yeah.
exactly.
All that.
Whereby, like in sales, AI might help them sort of understand the customer wants and needs because they may sometimes get, like competitive feedback around what we're doing, and it will help us understand how do we get better about being crystallized around the message that we're sharing to get to what really is important for managers.
Yep.
In HR, it may be help me look at all the compensation anomalies I have because every time we go through a performance cycle with merit, there are sometimes decisions made that kind of put people in or out of their compensation range, and we have a way to look at that. But typically, it's through like filtering on your their technology. It's using ways of like making certain that you have to kind of look at it manually, whereby AI will help me look at all those anomalies. They'll help me look at like how to do career pathing and job architectures. So it's being used differently in across the organization. I think the most important thing is first to get clear about the use cases that you need to leverage to make your jobs go faster, easier, better, more efficiently, right? And so if you can get those practical things and get people out of their kind of closed zone, like I could never put AI into that. Well, sure you can.
Right.
You know,
Of
you
course
could
you can.
rec- reconciling your checkbook. That was the worst thing I hated when I was like, in my early 20s, was reconciling. I don't have to do anymore. My
Right.
bank does it for me on my forms, right? So things that are everyday tasks that we put a lot of time into, we sometimes don't see because it's so close to us. You can unlocking, hey, if you had, there either a bot that could do this for you or this AI technology, it'll one help you be able to get to the work you can't get to, the work you're meant to do because you're still stuck in the world of manual, right? And the other thing, last thing I'll say on this front, which there's lots to talk about here, of course, but people are afraid of AI because they're afraid their roles are going to be, absconded with, so to speak. And we don't know. Like there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's going to be okay." Some people say, "Oh, yes, they will be." My view is either way, learn about AI, learn how to use it because there's
Right.
still a large human element around critical thinking and being able to leverage those tools. So it may replace some of the work you're doing today, but with your knowledge moving forward, you're going to be able to use it in other ways to help you grow in your career and the work that you do. So don't shy away from it as something that you might be threatened by. Lean into it because with the skills you build learning it, it will potentially open up other doors that may not have been open to you had you not taken the time to learn it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's really good advice too. I mean, when the automobile came about, like there was a whole industry prior to that, right? All the repairers of the buggies, all of the
Yes.
horse-drawn carriage, mechanics and repairers, and those jobs left, but it blossomed into an entire automobile industry, which was one of the
Right.
largest employers in the country for 100 years. Like yeah, they had to learn new skills, but the same processes apply, right? And there's
Exactly.
and there's a lot of transferred skills that once they start doing it, they'll like, oh well, this is just like what I was doing. It's just this
Exactly.
part is being done for me and things like that. So I really see AI being a generational or industrial revolution type pivot, right? Because yeah, there's going to be some jobs lost, but it doesn't mean those people necessarily are going to be unemployed. They just need new skills and different skills to be able to leverage and to stay relevant, which
Exactly.
isn't easy, but it's still something really beautiful and really exciting to look forward to if you're
Yeah,
curious and if you're a good employee anyway, right? If you have that curious mindset, like you mentioned earlier, you're going to be fine, right?
I
Just,
agree.
just,
I agree.
just start because the train left the station,
That's right.
right?
Jump in that. Come over here. The water's not so cold.
Yeah,
Not too
the water's
cold.
not
Jump
that
on in.
cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we use it every day. We also help organizations structure it, do it safe. But I will tell you, it's doing cybersecurity. We see a lot of risk with AI. Like there are numerous attacks. There's AI deepfakes in hiring, and that's something I wanted to ask you. Are you seeing that? Not necessarily at Dayforce, but given all of the employers that you see and you get reports on and your customer base, etc. I mean, there are SMBs, there are enterprise organizations. The FBI just cracked down on a North Korean IT laptop farm group that is doing this, and they're using AI deepfakes, AI generated resumes to get the interview, and then they come on with the interview using synthetic ID, which means they're going to pass all the background checks, and then I need to be a 35-year-old Asian woman to get this job. So I go in using AI deepfake technology and I look just like that and I sound just
Right.
like that. But I answer the
Right.
questions. Are you guys seeing things like that yet? Or is it not as, I'm sure it's not prevalent yet, but I was just
Yeah.
curious
So
what you're seeing
I
or
haven't
know.
seen the deep fake, but that scares the heck out of me, right? Because
Oh, it's
if you
frightening
haven't seen it,
because
it's
it's
going to be
gotten so
coming your
much
way.
better. I didn't
Yes.
mean to interrupt you, but it's gotten
No.
so much better in the last 4 or 5 months. It's undetectable by the human eye. It's incredibly good. A year ago, you could tell, like you could
You can
just
tell the
see it,
difference.
right?
Yeah.
Now you can't. Like even like putting your hand in front of your face because like a green screen, it would kind of show something odd. Not anymore.
Not
It's
anymore.
really good. It's
So what I've
really, really
seen
good.
is it is more of the fake worker where
Ah,
they'll apply for a job, and then you never see them on screen.
mm,
And you're able to, and they're never, like, they do the work, but you never get a chance to actually build a relationship with them, and then we find that maybe they are working for a third party, whether it's a government or
sure.
not. So a lot of the fake worker thing has been prevalent in the industry, and in fact I think the Justice Department is trying to help firms understand how to deal and address with that, because they can, of course, pull, non-disclosed information from companies that it's private, that has
Yep.
impact to the company. So I've seen more of that, but I anticipate, back to your point, you know, the world's going to be changing very much so, and I think we're going to see more of what you just described. I already see it, like in celebrity, right? You see like endorsements or things
Yep.
on TikTok or Insta, that are not really the celebrity or the politician speaking to it. It looks pretty real. I gotta imagine maybe even happened today. I don't know about it because we haven't unlocked it, but I do know that we have a lot that I've seen related to fake workers that we've put a lot of controls in to ensure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's absolutely the right approach, and because the technology out there just hasn't caught up, and human
Right.
adaptability hasn't caught up to be able to catch this. So really going back to those human approaches of verifying, right? I think I just think verifying through legitimate channels is still going to be the best bet. It
Yep.
seems we circle back to the human approach, and that's really good. I do want to ask you about the customer zero and
Yeah, sure.
your human centered kind of AI and leadership. What drove that initiative, and what are you seeing in the experiences of it? Like by being able, I would think by being able to use it yourself, you're able to communicate that not only internally but externally to customers.
Yeah.
Walk us through that customer zero mindset and why you felt it was so important.
Well, it's everywhere I've ever been where you have, it can be to B or it can be B to C, right? But
Hmm.
typically in B to B, when I was at Cisco, we had customer one, which
Hmm.
was our CIO at the time, started using a lot more of our technology. It was kind of a travesty when you kind of unlocked it and realized they're using different routers and networking and technology that were sometimes from competitors versus using our own, which you would think, really? But that was like 3 decades ago or 2 decades ago,
Right.
where by now it's really really prevalent that if you're going to sell something, you better use it, assuming it's something that you use for your business.
Right.
And so when I came on board, there was a program in place, but I've taken it to, I think, a whole different level. Not me personally, but I have much more of a lock and step relationship with the product team who is building and developing the product and looking at the roadmap and functionality of current products, but also with our technical account management, which is the services and deployment and support side of the business. Because I want to be treated like a customer. Now, of course, I'm not a
Hmm.
paying customer, but I am in the sense of if we get this right, there's a big payoff because we're able to show our customers how we use the product. And also, we can work through any sort of gaps or bugs that may be in it before our customers have to experience it. So it's kind of a high stakes job, but I decided I can't do it on my own. Like, I don't build
Hmm.
products, right? I use
Right.
product. So I have to build that strong governance relationship and closed loop relationship with the product teams and also the services team to ensure this works. And I have them come in and look at my configurations to ensure that they're proper. I've got a very strong human resource technology team that work underneath of me that also are the network administrators, getting technical here, to make certain that when we integrate a product, it works within the platform we have at Dayforce.
Right.
So it's been wonderful for me, a couple of reasons, because I have been on the other side of it where I'm a head of HR. I hate like it'll be called ATS. It's a very sexy word for applicant tracking
Yeah.
system, but it's where you put all your data when you're going to do hiring. And I've never found like one I absolutely loved. I've never found a whole sort of platform, like best in breed is hard to find
I always
because you
get worried
typically.
that I'm going to miss somebody good because they don't have the right keywords in the resume, right?
e-
That's
Exactly.
the risk
It's
of
hard, and then
using
plus you want somebody that's going to work. You want a technology system to work for you to help do the work for you. I mean, now with
right.
AI, they can screen against a series of criteria to kind of help bubble up the best aligned to the resume or to the job description you're looking for. So all these years, I've been like kind of complaining about, gee, I want to find the perfect platform. So when this opportunity came up, I'm like, well, here's my time. Like, put my money where my
Yeah.
mouth is because I've been complaining about ones that do and don't work and the way I'd like them to be. Now I could be a part of that solution with this role. So I've taken it really, really quite seriously. And so with that, there's a lot of investment my team does with these teams to ensure that we're early involved on like things coming down the path. Let's think about a new way to involve performance management and AI. Okay. Or with this current functionality, we want to see something different in the talent acquisition process and be able to see the gating process of where you're at from the funnel of being identified all the way to being hired and be able to forecast when a butt will be in a seat for the financial organization, right? So I'm really enjoying that piece of it because now I can actually apply all my years of learning and like what I liked and what I didn't like into this product. And then being in front of customers is fantastic because we're all different types and sizes. Like I would be considered large enterprise, kind of professional, whereby a lot of our customers are also large frontline worker organizations that have like retail or home care or what have you that have different needs, right? But we all need to pay our people on time, need to be compliant. We need to go hire people. We need to make certain they're working through the hire to retire, being developed, being rewarded, growing and moving around the organization. So we all have same needs, it just may show up differently. And so those
Right.
different cohorts and personas have helped me understand like the varying degrees of industry and then how can I play a role in the one I represent, which would be the large enterprise, professional organization.
Absolutely. Um, when you think about younger workers and their desire to move up in organizations or move from organization to organization but increase their salary and their responsibility, their titles, etc. I'm interested in what advice you would give to the younger version of you today, but also kind of how do you cultivate people that you see that don't necessarily have a leadership title, but they are clearly demonstrating leadership?
Yes, yes. Well, I'll start with that one first because I really believe like you don't have to have leader in your title to be a leader, right? And I think there's this
100%.
this, this notion of like hierarchy, is getting less and less like the world is not flat. We know it's round, but I think when you think about organization, like flat gives people a chance to actually play where they need to play without having to have the title to go do it. So I'm a big
Right.
believer in that front. And then to that point, you can lead from any position. If you are an early career person, your leadership may be bringing to light, how do I make the onboarding better for my peers, so when others join, they can learn what I didn't know, like that rite of passage. And there are days probably way back when where I had to do, you need to go through the rite of passage. That doesn't work any longer. Like, how do we make it better, faster, more effective for people as they come on board? So my view of being in early in career, and what I would have told myself back then would be, if you see something, fix it. Just don't assume that's just how it always has to be. Ask the whys behind why we do things, because sometimes people become complacent. It's how we've always done it, or you don't feel confident enough because maybe you're not experienced enough. But sometimes that experience puts a shade over you, and you have like a bias about it. When you don't know enough about something, you see something incredibly glaring and ask 100%. The question nobody asked the question on, right? So ask questions, be curious. And then, there's a different relationship of employment from when you and I were, early in career, because now the loyalty isn't there as much on either side. Like, the days of I'm going to be with the same company for 40 years, although we just had someone celebrate their 60-year anniversary at Dayforce.
Every now and then you do see it, and it's always remarkable to me.
We've got some highly tenured folks who've been here for a while.
I love seeing when somebody has dedicated their life, like 30 years at a place, 40 years at a place. You're like,
and they're still rolling,
and they still like it, and they're still bringing new ideas, and you're like, that is fantastic. Right?
I hope that's me, right? I don't want to be that person in the floor saying, when are they going to retire?
But it doesn't always happen, and part of that is the employer's fault. Speaking huge generalization, but a lot of that is us as employers. We haven't always treated our employees great, and so of course they're going to leave, right?
Right.
And so you can't really blame them. But it is tough when you're interviewing younger candidates and they've bounced from place to place to place to place, because you're like, I don't know if they're good at anything yet. Like,
that's
you kind of almost want to see them go through, especially if they've been there less than 2 years. You're like, that's just when it gets real. Like, you've got to stick around longer than that time period to really make an impact, right? It takes there's still a mountain to climb, right? You can take a helicopter, you can walk a path, but you still have to climb it, right? There's still all those building blocks that need done.
Exactly. And it's interesting you bring that up, because I think in the past there was low tolerance for employment gaps or short tenure, right? But I think there's a little bit more, appetite for that because of COVID, right? And just like the way life's got in the way. But I'm with you. Like longevity helps understand, did the strategy you put in place or the goals you're intended to deliver, did you actually do them? Because you can come out and have a big splash of all the great things you're going to go do and get people all excited, and then if you move on, did you ever see whether or not they worked or not, that got implemented? Because that's the true test of whether or not you performed to the extension. So wherever I can see a little bit more longevity, and then I'll always ask the question, like, why these short stints? In fact, I'll give you a quick example. There's a person that I worked with many years ago that was really young in career and was fantastic, and then we parted ways as I moved on to other companies and they moved on to other companies. And then we happened to re-engage again because I had an opportunity, and he'd moved around quite a bit. I'm like, what happened? And basically every single time he'd be there for a year or two, he'd work himself out of a job because he was doing organizational design and organizational effectiveness work. And we don't need this anymore. Or that's sometimes the first thing you cut when you're in times of
the
need.
Person that was organizing us, right?
Exactly. Like, hey, we don't need that. We just need to get to revenue, get him out of the way, even though he could help with revenue. Yeah. So that was a moment where I'm like, well, I know what you can do, and actually what you've even done in the short stints, I want you to come join the team. And he came and joined. So there's times where there's a reason behind that, but as an early in career person, try and get some anchoring. So you walk in with real experience versus just a series of short-term relationships that haven't yielded the growth you could realize had you stayed there longer and performed.
Well, especially when there's metrics behind it. Like when you think of certain roles that are pretty crystal clear, like sales or marketing or something like that. It's like, if you're leaving every year from somewhere, you're just there until quota catches up. Like, you need to be there long enough to show that you have delivered and that you can do it, right? And so I think that's really good advice, like kind of just sticking with it, but also just all of the different initiatives, like just showing that you're learning and that you're curious, there's always going to be something in a resume that will demonstrate that. Like you
That's
can
right. That's
tell
right.
somebody that is like learning and it's either their volunteer work or it's something, some board they're on or something, and you can tell their social, I mean, social media can be silly or nonsensical at times, but it can also be a really good window into
I
what
agree.
somebody's really passionate about, right? And you can kind of like read into that and see that.
That thought leadership too. Sometimes they have
Yeah.
these really great ideas that they're publishing on. Yeah, I 100% agree. I remember when my girls, I've got a 22 and 19-year-old, but when they were younger, I'm like, remember anything you post is free for all, right? And
It's
it's
there
true.
forever.
It's
Like
there
it's there
forever. So
forever
just be
too.
thoughtful
That's what
about what
I've
you put
always
out
told my
there.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Thank
so
God they didn't
true.
have that when I was their age, right?
I say that all the time. Like I am where I'm at in large part because there was not social media back
There's no
then.
documentation,
So
right?
it's exactly right. So what's on the horizon for you? What do you guys have going either at Dayforce or other things that you're advising on?
Oh gosh.
What's
Well,
looking up?
Dayforce is a lot of really cool things. So
Yeah.
we're having our big Discover conference, which is every October, and it's amazing. I went to my first one last year, having just started last April, and basically bring all of our customers in, and we have like a series of just one thought leadership things. We had like Brene Brown come last year, who I'm like a totally girl fanned
Very
over.
good.
She's
Yeah.
amazing. But we also looked at our technology. We had customers come and present how they're using it. A lot of like knowledge share. And what I love about this forum is we bring both prospects and customers, and we have them talk to each other.
Oh, really good.
Yeah,
That's
because
really good.
sometimes people, I don't want you talking to my customers because they might tell
Mm-hmm.
you what's not working, and we have no fear of that because we believe so much in our product and our ecosystem,
Right.
and that's what fun to watch because you get people getting a
And you
chance to
guys are
meet.
using your platform. And by
Exactly.
using your platform, you have like other employees there that can speak to both of them and say, here's what we see when we do that. Are you guys seeing that? Right.
Oh,
Here's
100%. And
That's
like a lot of
really
times we'll ask
helpful.
questions when we have panels of people who are customers, the prospects will say, tell me what was the hardest thing in your implementation? What would you have
Yeah.
done differently? What do you look for when you're looking for a partner? So we use it as information sessions as well because people need to make good decisions and feel good about it. So super excited about that. And then we have a lot of new AI products coming out, which we're very excited about. AI assistant to help with self-service for our employees when they need a question answered very quickly. Help how we think about recruiting and using AI to help get the best candidate through the pipeline more quickly. AI for performance and taking all the inputs that we hear and get on our employees to help us have a more 360 view of someone's contributions and their areas of growth and development. So it's uncapped right now to our conversation earlier. And so I'm really excited about where we're headed as a company to help really put this as part of an everyday way that you work in your company to use this platform to help get more efficiency as well as more efficacy in what you do every day.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we will have links to you so people can connect to you and see your thought leadership, as well as links to Dayforce. Should an organization be interested in checking it out, because it is a phenomenal platform.
Thank
Before I
you.
let you go, I
Yeah.
want to ask you. So you started in because what I'm, I will say, being in the technology and cybersecurity space, you get a lot of people that came from other fields because a
Right.
lot of us that are not 29 anymore, like we didn't have, it didn't exist back then, right? Like it
Maybe the
really,
Texas Instrument calculator was like the most technical thing I
yeah,
had,
the
right?
Palm Pilot was the coolest
Right.
thing ever. Like this stuff, like cybersecurity today, like it didn't even exist when we were younger. So it's not like we could have gotten a degree in it and
Right.
focused on it. But so you get a lot of that. But now in your case, you went from journalism to like industrial relations, as I understand it,
Right. That's right.
and then you migrated over into HR. Like, why is my question? Like, how did that migration happen? I mean, I can see them all kind of related, but
Right. Right.
I'm really curious. Like,
It was
what?
completely accidental, to be really frank with you.
Oh,
So
okay.
I started off my college years in like pharmacy, so in chemistry, and I was
Oh,
really
yeah,
good at chemistry. I
yeah,
loved to mix things and all that, but I didn't want to be in labs all the time. I just felt
right.
like this is like not my passion. So I love to write and the verbal notion. So went to journalism, And then I graduate thinking I'd go to DC and become like a reporter on the
Oh
Hill,
yeah,
right?
which
Just all
would be
that
a really
glamorous.
cool job. You'd be
Yeah, I mean,
very busy right now.
very.
Be,
Oh gosh, I
it'd
would
be a
definitely need
lot going
AI
on.
now. A lot
Yeah,
going on. And then the job market had really like the tank. It was like another like Black Thursday kind of thing.
right.
So I thought, well, geez, maybe I should just go to grad school. I don't always suggest you go right from undergrad to grad. It's good to have some work experience to apply. But I've been
Right.
bartending at this college pub my entire college and grad school year, so I had some experience, but not necessarily experience you might want to apply. But I found a way to apply it. So I looked for a master's degree, and I found one I really liked, which was in the business of at a school in economics, but it was under industrial and labor relations around organizational psychology,
Oh yeah.
compensation benefits, and incentives. So it had kind of an interesting mix of things I had not really thought about, but I got in there and just loved it. It was like just amazing, right? And so when I was on campus, we had a very strong collective bargaining program, so like unions and such. And so we had Pepsi, we had Frito-Lay, we had US Gypsum, we had Marathon Oil all coming to our campuses. And so Frito-Lay had come on board to interview. And so one of the questions was, well, what would you apply what you've done so far in work to what you do, in your work every day if you were to take a job in HR? And I said, well,
Yeah.
here's this. I have dealt with every level of sobriety there is working in a college pub, both with professors as well as students. And so I know and can have a good sense of dynamic about where somebody at in their trajectory of fun on a given night. And with that, I've been able to learn how to like help people understand that they're in a position where they should not have anything more to drink, and make certain that people are safe in their decisions and also safe in how they get home at night. So I kind of use that as a way to say, I get the human dynamic. I can get when someone's sad, happy, needs a person to talk to and cry on their shoulder, or someone wants just to go have a good time that may have bad consequences down the road. And I swear the interviewer is like, that's the most creative
That is a
response I've ever
really,
heard
it is almost
to a
like you
question.
took that and put it in AI and
I
said, how
know.
do I take my experience and make it relevant to this job possible,
Yeah.
right? Like that is exactly like what AI would spit out. They're like, well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of analogies, boom, boom, boom. And you're like, and you actually came up with it long before there was AI.
Long
That's
before. Who knew? Who
fantastic.
knew? But you can
That's
everything you do, you can
great.
apply,
But it
right?
really
So
is
like,
relevant.
yeah,
That's a really
it
good
is.
point, though, because I mean, I've known a lot of people even in finance and in Wall Street that had psychology degrees, and they swear by it. They're like, this definitely helps
It
because it's
does.
all in negotiation. It's all like trying to gauge things that words aren't there, but
That's right.
there's a lot of things that people say without saying the words, right?
That's right. That's right. The nonverbals, the body
Oh
behaviors, the
yeah,
what's not being said, which is versus what's being said. Yeah, it's been a
right.
gift for
Yeah,
me because it helps me, go in and set the energy for a team meeting if I know there's some tension
sure,
in the room or
absolutely.
have you. Yeah.
Yeah, those are always fun to navigate, right? But you're able to, self-deprecation will always work. There's always ways to do it.
100%.
Yeah, it's
Be
always
real.
good.
If you can be real and being real, do it.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And if you can't solve it, just be real, and it'll
That's right.
it'll always work out. So,
That's right.
well, thank you so much for your time. I know
Oh,
you're
thank you.
super busy, and you have a large company that you are instrumental, pivotal in, and so we really, really appreciate your time. So
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for the time. And I always enjoy these conversations. I learn a lot along the way. So thanks for making the time for me as well.
that's outstanding. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. All right, take
All
care.
right,
Have a good one.
see you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.